What is up, YouTube? Dottz Gaming here, and today I'm going to be going over two different things with you guys. First, I'm going to be going over the big thing in this video is the November 1st hotfixes. They're all pretty much PvP based, so those are the ones I'm going to be going over. And I'm also going to go over a small channel update. It's really not much of a update to my YouTube channel, as well as something that I'm just doing with my videos that I'm just going to let you guys know, so you're going to start seeing a higher quality of video. So the first thing I'm going to be going over is the patch notes, and I personally, I think I'm a minority somehow, but I really like what Blizzard has done with these hot fixes, and I'm going to go over each one, and then afterwards I'm going to talk about why I'm a minority with this and why I don't really understand it. So the first thing, Frost Death Knight strength in PvP was reduced by 10%. Absolutely needed to be done. Death Knights needed to be tuned down a bit. You know, thank God they weren't hit with it with just a huge nerf so that they might accidentally go inviable, but they were doing way too much damage and they needed to be brought back in line. Unholy's artifact ability, Apocalypse, has its damage no longer reduced in PvP. It is now doing full damage, as it should be. I haven't really seen that many Unholy Death Knights, and their presence really needs, I think, to be felt a bit more. So that little buff was definitely necessary. Demon Hunters Havoc had their agility buffed by 5% and their stamina increased by 10%. I don't like the developer's note here, and this is what bugs me with this, with their thought process. With time, the players have become more accustomed to Demon Hunters and how to counter them. This should bring back their damage and general survivability to help them compete. I could be interpreting this wrong, but the way I read this is like, okay, so yeah, now that people figured out how to play against Demon Hunters, we realize we shouldn't have nerfed them, so we're going to start bringing them back in line. Like, no, you should have left them the way, like, not exactly the way they were, but you didn't need to nerf them down this hard so that people could learn to play against them. You should have left them nearly the way they were and let people figure it out. You know, make people think, make people actually try to figure out how to play against the Demon Hunter. But, you know, it is what it is, and I'm glad to see Havoc getting some buffs because they are so needed. I don't think this is going to be enough, but it's a small bump up, and I guess it's kind of a step in the right direction. Hunter survival stamina has been increased by 15%. I don't really know what to think about that. I haven't really seen that many survival hunters in PvP, so I don't really know their issues, so I'm not going to speak much upon it. Frost Intellect for mages had it reduced by 10%. Definitely think that was a nice change. Frost mages were dealing a lot of burst damage, and I think by a slight intellect nerf will bring them more in line. Now, Windwalker Monks, I'm really glad to see some nerfs for them because them and Frost Death Knights have been absolutely wreaking havoc. Agility was nerfed by 10%. Their heavy-handed strikes now cause Fist of Fury to only stun on the initial cast as opposed to each tick of Fist of Fury. I really think that's a good change. I know at one point Blizzard was talking about removing the stun from Fist of Fury, which I thought would have been a huge mistake, but I think it is very practical to make it so that it stuns on the initial punch, and then you keep taking damage the whole duration instead of just keep repeatedly stunning, if I'm understanding that correctly. Serenity now increases damage to 25% with the Spiritual Focus artifact trait, was 30%. I really don't know what this does, but all I'm going to say is the fact that it's a 5% nerf, it's a small nerf. It's not a huge nerf, it's a small nerf. And that's what I like to see. Blizzard doing small tweaks to see how they affect the classes. Now, for Ellie Shamans and Shamans in general, Forked Lightning will no longer hit targets, will no longer ignore line of sight. Definitely something good. It will no longer strike dead targets. Also very good. That's definitely going to be two big quality of life changes. And Lava Burst was buffed by 20%. Very nice. It was only doing 80% damage to PvP. Now it's doing full damage. Ellie Shamans have needed a lot of help, and this is definitely a good buff for them. Elemental Control of Lava deals an additional 100% damage, was an additional 150%. So they nerfed Control of Lava a bit, if I am reading that correctly. And again, I'm not entirely sure what that does, so I'm not going to speak too much on that change. Now for the warrior changes. Hamstrings damage has been increased considerably and now lasts 12 seconds in PvP. I will touch upon that point again after I go over these next two. Arm strength and stamina increased by 10%. Definitely something that needs to be done. And Fury strength and stamina increased by 10%. For Fury, they have so many other issues that the strength and stamina increase is almost kind of like a moot point. But back to hamstring. Obviously, this whole hamstring debacle has been causing a lot of controversy in the community. My opinion on it is hamstring being on the global cooldown. You need to have incentive to use it, and it needs to be practical to use. If you want hamstring to be off, to be on the global cooldown, it needs to deal. I was talking to a couple warriors about this, and they all think it pretty much needs to deal nearly as much damage as slam, as well as have its hamstring effect to make it like actually useful on the global cooldown. And Blizzard seems to think that hamstring on the GCD is the move for the class, but I don't know how much considerably is. I don't know what number quantifies considerably, but hopefully it is something actually worth using. I still think Warriors need some other quality of life changes because they really are just damage bots at this point, and stuff like Warbringer does need to be baseline, and I don't personally even know why it was ever gotten rid of, the whole charge stuns and have like Warriors having no base stuns. That's kind of ridiculous to me. But that's a separate issue in and of itself. For Warlocks, they had Entrenched in Flame reduced by a second. Focused Chaos was give you an additional 100% damage as opposed to 150% damage, and Shadow Burn now deals 20% less damage in PvP. I understand Warlocks were freaking out. I'm sorry. Destro was so strong. It needed to be brought back in line, and these nerfs are very practical. Now, a lot of people on the forums are going absolutely crazy about these changes. And I honestly, I don't get it. Because myself included, and other people on the forums, and a lot of people that I've talked to, biggest issue with Blizzard is that they have been over nerfing and over buffing classes, and that's been a huge thing that they've been doing wrong. And so look at a lot of these changes: 5%, 10%, 15%, like a lot smaller numbers. And then I go on the forums and people are going, wasn't enough, wasn't enough, wasn't enough. Like, guys, this is good. Having these small changes is good. Like, yes, there are still issues with PvP in terms of a lot of classes with their utility and some of their mechanics, but they're doing exactly what we asked and what we've wanted. Smaller changes. Is everything now perfect? No. But it's a step in the right direction, and I commend Blizzard for finally beginning to make smaller changes and seeing how things play out. It's what you need to do when you're trying to tune all of these different factors. These huge nerfs and these huge buffs is what's caused a lot of the problems that we see. And especially with the way Legion is and how much time you have to put into one character, you should be doing small nerfs and small buffs so that you accidentally don't knock a spec into complete inviability like what happened with Havoc for the first whole part of this season, the first like 5 weeks, because we had our 5 days in the sun, So I don't understand why people are complaining about that. Yes, they are not addressing every single issue right now, but they are taking a step in the right direction, and that is something I'm happy about. Obviously, all of PvP's problems are not going to get fixed in one hotfix. You got to be patient, and I'm glad that Blizzard is taking a step in the right direction. So, if you only came to this video to hear about the patch notes and my opinion on them, you can pretty much stop here. What I'm going to go over next is a bit of an update with my videos. So, I'm sure if you've watched my videos before, you have noticed that they always have a slight discoloration to them, and for the longest time, I have not been able to figure out why. I thought there was a setting in OBS that I needed to check, which was encode in full range, and I did check that, because I was like, okay, encoding in full range means it encodes in the full color spectrum, but that still wasn't solving my problem, and I wasn't sure why. And then I saw a video on YouTube and went through my NVIDIA control panel settings, and somehow, when my computer rendered videos, it rendered them in a limited color spectrum. So it chopped off the vibrant colors and chopped off the blacks. So it shrunk the color spectrum, which was caused my videos to have a discoloration to them. So I finally unchecked that setting, and oh my god, my videos look so much better. So if you've ever noticed that discoloration in my videos before, it should now be gone. So I'm really, really glad I found that setting. And also, thanks to your guys' support and watching my videos, I have now, using only YouTube money, invested in a real editing software, and I've finally been able to move away from Windows Movie Maker. I'm so happy about that. Because let me tell you, making that big ESO tutorial with Movie Maker was a bitch. But I have now bought Adobe Premiere Elements. I didn't need Sony Vegas. Do not need Sony Vegas. Way too much money for, and like way too high a production value for what I do. This does everything I possibly need. I can have multiple videos, multiple layers of audio. I can finally overlay images. I can overlay videos. I can basically do everything I could possibly want to do. And I'm really, really happy that I was able to buy this using only YouTube money so I can invest the ad revenue that I got back into my YouTube videos and basically up the production value and make the videos better. So I just want to thank you guys again for supporting me and for all the likes, all the video views, and all the subscriptions. And if you're not subscribed, I urge you to please subscribe. It really helps me out. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Leave a comment below telling me what you think about the PvP changes that Blizzard has made. I think personally this is a step in the right direction. They nerfed a lot of the classes that needed to be nerfed. They buffed a lot of the classes that needed to be buffed. The only issue that I still see present is I don't know what quantifies considerably for warriors. And if that is a reasonable value, if that's like near like slams damage or something like that, I think warriors will be in a much better spot than they were previously. But we have to see how it plays out. I think if warriors are still having problems, they need to continue to buff hamstring if they want to keep it on the GCD, and they also need to address a couple classes utility. You know, looking at warriors and demon hunters, they need their utility definitely fixed. So once again, guys, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, have a wonderful day.